Hi, welcome to 关键30. My name is Pastor Peter, 万你好牧师. I'm so excited that you are tuning in today. We're going to have a great time together. And so thank you for tuning in today. Today, whether you are a Christian or not watching this program, I believe you're going to be very blessed. But I want you to know, today we want to talk about marriage. But if you're a Christian, you're watching this program, I want to start off by telling you something that perhaps you know deep in your heart, but maybe nobody told you this. And it's this. Just because you are a Christian, and just because you marry another Christian, does not mean you will have a great marriage. Just because it's a Christian marriage doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a great marriage. Because marriage is about key principles that you must learn how to apply. Imagine this. Imagine you're driving this car down the side of the mountain. You're driving down the mountain, and you see a sign that says 50 kilometer per hour. You're driving down the mountain, you see this sign. Now this sign is telling you if you drive over 50 kilometers per hour, you're going to get into trouble. Now if you drive at 90 kilometers per hour, you come off that mountain, you hit the curve, your car is still going to fly off the mountain. Even if you're listening to Christian music in the car. See, just because you're listening to Christian music isn't going to save your car from driving down the mountain. It's the same thing with marriage too. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you have a great marriage. If you do not pay attention to some of the very key principles that you have to apply. But thankfully, the Bible actually tells us many great principles that we can apply in our marriage. Now, one of the principles that the Bible teaches us about marriage is found in Ephesians chapter 5. This is the Apostle Paul speaking to the church in Ephesus. And this is what he asked them to do. He begins by saying, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. And then he says, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Now, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. Now, in the first century, women were taught, not just within the church, but everywhere, to submit to the men. But Paul, in this passage, speaking to the Ephesus church, he adds something that's very important. He says this, he says, yes, wives, submit to your husbands. But first, he says, both of you, husband and wife, must learn to submit to one another. This is why it says in verse 21, he says, submit to one another. Husband and wife, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Now, this was shocking at the time because I can just imagine some men reading this letter in the church of Ephesus and thinking to himself, did Paul just say what I think he said? He wants me, a man, to submit to my wife? That's radical. Nobody was teaching anybody to do that. That's nonsense. I'm the man. I'm more powerful, both socially and physically. So why should I submit to my wife? To which Paul would respond, yup, that's right. I want you as a man to learn how to submit to your wife as well in the context of marriage. And he says, by the way, if you don't do that, you're not honoring Christ. And God takes it personally when you don't know how to submit to one another. See, Paul, in this passage, is introducing this idea called mutual submission. And this idea of mutual submission is so foreign to the culture at the time, and perhaps to our own culture as well. You see, submission in our culture, as well as first century, says this: do as I say, because I'm more powerful powerful and I'm more important. And because I'm more powerful, you need to submit and do what I tell you to do. What I say has more power because I'm more powerful. But Paul, right here, he's not talking about this kind of one-sided submission, but he's talking about a mutual submission. And the two are very different. See, when it comes to one-sided submission, it is based on I'm more powerful than you. But in mutual submission, it's based on this idea of I need you. I actually need you because you're different from me. You're different than me. We're two very different people, so that's why I need you. And this is the idea that must exist in a great marriage. See, when submission is defined wrong, it causes all kinds of frustration. And what do we need to do then to make sure that submission never becomes frustration? Well, there's a question that we need to keep asking ourselves. And the question is this: am I, the husband or the wife, whoever that is, am I demanding more than I give? Am I demanding of my spouse more than I give? See, Paul is very careful to tell both the husband and the wives what the marital duties are, not what the marital demands should be. So in this passage that we just read, found in his letter to the Ephesus church, to the Ephesians, he says, husbands, right? Love your wives. He says, wives, submit yourself to your husbands. But he's speaking to the wives about submitting. He's not telling the husband this. He's not saying, husband, go tell your wife that she must submit to you. Right? That is not what Paul is saying. See, Paul understands that if the husband takes this passage, reads this passage, and says to the wife, hey, listen, you must submit to me, because this is what Paul says. If that's what you're reading this for, then you totally missed the point. If that's what you're reading this for, then you have missed the point. Because you shouldn't take this and tell your husband and your wife, this is what you need to do to me. What you should be doing is taking this passage, reading it not for somebody else, but for yourself. Reading it for yourself and saying to yourself, you know what? It's my duty as the husband to love. You know what? It's my duty as the wife to learn to submit and to respect. See, it is the responsibility of a wife to show respect. But it should not be the demand of the husband for her to do so. Because you cannot demand respect. It has to come from the heart. And so Paul is speaking to each one of us, both husband and wife, what our responsibility is, what we need to do to make this a great marriage. But so often we read this passage, and instead of thinking what we need to do, we take this and tell the other side what they need to do. See, we need to be more focused on what we ought to give in marriage than what we can get. When we come into marriage thinking about what I can get out of it rather than what I can give, that's when the marriage gets into trouble. See, so many times, because we're Christians, because we understand the Bible, we think just by reading this, it automatically will give us a great marriage. It doesn't. We will only have a great marriage when you learn to apply the principles as it pertains to your responsibility. See, I believe you're going to have a great marriage, whether you're married right now or whether you're single and you're looking to get married. You are going to have a great marriage. I believe in you. But you have to be smart. You have to be wise. You have to take what God says to us about marriage to heart. Learn to give, not to get. We don't get into marriage to get. We get into marriage to give. And the wonderful thing is this: when two people enter into marriage, both with the heart to give, both of them will find themselves satisfied and happy. Well, thank you for watching 关键30today. I hope today's message helped you. I hope it speaks to you. Whether you're doing what I just said perfectly or not, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is to learn to apply these things so you're heading in the right direction. You're doing a great job. You're winning in life. And if this program is helping you, please feel free to share this program, share this message on your social media, any other platform that you love to use. We'll see you next time. My name is Pastor Peter, 万利亚牧师. We hope you have a great time until we meet again.